Imagine for a second that you're standing at the base of the world's tallest skyscraper. You look up, squinting against the sun, marveling at how thousands of tons of glass and steel can pierce the clouds without a single shudder. Feels permanent, invincible, and soaring. But here is the secret that most of us forget while we're staring at the penthouse. For every foot of shimmering architecture reaching toward the sky, there are dozens of feet of reinforced concrete and steel buried deep in the dark, silent earth. That building isn't standing because of its height. It's standing because of its depth. Now look down at your own feet. This is the skyscraper fallacy. In our quest for vitality, we spend almost all our energy decorating the upper floors. We want the mental clarity of the 80th floor, the lean muscle of the 50th, and the cardiovascular engine of the 30th. We invest in expensive supplements, grueling hit sessions, and complex meditation apps, all while our foundation, the 26 bones and 33 joints in each foot, is effectively crumbling into the sand. If a skyscraper's foundation shifts by even a fraction of an inch, the windows on the top floor will eventually shatter. The human body follows the exact same blueprint. When your ankles are stiff and your feet are asleep from years of being trapped in rigid shoes, your knees have to overcompensate. When your knees overcompensate, your hips tighten. By the time that mechanical stress reaches your lower back and neck, you aren't just dealing with soreness. You're dealing with a structural collapse. Building a vibrant, energetic life on shaky ankles is like trying to stack lead bricks on a marshmallow. You can try to power through it, but eventually the physics of the human frame will catch up to you. You'll feel heavy, sluggish, and prone to those mystery pains that seem to appear out of nowhere. Day 3 is about stopping that collapse before it starts. We aren't here to just stretch. We are here to pour the concrete. We are going to wake up the nerves in your soles and find the structural integrity in your stride. Before we can reach for the clouds in the weeks to come, we have to make sure the ground beneath you doesn't give way. It's time to stop building on sand and start reclaiming your base. Take a moment to look at your shoes, those sleek, cushioned, expensive marvels of modern engineering sitting by the door. We've been taught to view them as protective armor, essential gear for navigating the hard, unforgiving world of concrete and asphalt. But if we're being honest with our biology, most modern footwear functions less like a tool and more like a sensory deprivation chamber. For your feet, the average shoe isn't a cradle. It's a coffin. Inside that narrow, padded box, something tragic happens to your anatomy. Your toes, designed by evolution to splay wide and grip the earth like roots, are squeezed together into a passive, useless clump. Your arches, which are meant to act as dynamic, living springs that absorb thousands of pounds of pressure with every step, are propped up by artificial supports until the muscles simply give up and wither away. We have put our feet to sleep, trading our natural lightning-fast balance for the dull, muffled sensation of walking on pillows. When you spend 16 hours a day in a shoe coffin, the brain eventually stops listening to the feet. The thousands of nerve endings in your soles, the very sensors that are supposed to tell your brain exactly where you are in space, go silent. It's like trying to play a piano while wearing oven mitts. You can still hit the keys, but the nuance, the feedback, and the music are gone. This sensory disconnect is why so many of us feel clumsy or heavy as we age. We haven't lost our balance. We've just disconnected the wires. The result is a body that is perpetually guessing. Because your feet can't feel the ground, your ankles become rigid out of fear, and your brain sends signals to your hips to tighten up just to keep you upright. You aren't moving with the fluid grace of a predator. You're navigating the world on two numb stilts. This isn't just about fashion or comfort. It's about a slow-motion atrophy of our most basic human capability, the ability to feel the earth and respond to it. To reclaim your vitality, you have to stage a jailbreak. You have to remind your nervous system that your feet aren't just blocks of meat at the end of your legs. They are sophisticated, intelligent instruments of movement. Today, we start the process of waking them up, stripping away the artificial and reconnecting with the raw, stable power that has been dormant inside your shoes for far too long. Imagine a single pebble dropped into a perfectly still pond. The ripple doesn't stay where the stone hit. It travels, expanding outward until it touches the furthest shore. Your body is that pond, and your movement is a continuous wave. We often treat our bodies like a collection of isolated parts, a back problem, a knee issue, or tight shoulders, as if they were separate rooms in a house. But in the architecture of human movement, everything is wired together in a relentless, beautiful chain reaction known as the Kinetic Domino Effect. This is why the nagging ache in your lower back often has nothing to do with your spine and everything to do with your big toe. Think of your big toe as the anchor of your entire structural integrity. When you walk, that toe is designed to lever against the ground, triggering a series of muscular switches that travel up your leg. When the big toe is locked or weakened, suffocated by the shoe coffins we discussed, the anchor fails. Instead of a powerful, stable push-off, your foot collapses inward. This tiny shift, a mere fraction of an inch at the ground level, forces your shin to rotate unnaturally. Your knee, caught in the middle, tries to compensate for the wobble, which in turn forces your thigh bone to tug at the pelvis. By the time this mechanical error reaches your hips, it's no longer a whisper. It's a scream. Your pelvis tilts to manage the instability, and to keep you from falling over, your lower back muscles, the erectors of your spine, have to clench with everything they've got just to hold you upright. You spend your day in a state of perpetual bracing, unaware that your back is working overtime because your foundation has gone on strike. We spend millions of dollars on lumbar supports, ergonomic chairs, and massage therapists to treat the pain site, but we rarely look at the source site. We are trying to fix the roof while the basement is flooding. When you restore the function of your feet and the mobility of your ankles, the dominoes begin to fall in the opposite direction. The tension in the knees dissolves, the hips find their neutral home, and suddenly, that chronic tightness in your back simply evaporates. True vitality isn't found by attacking the symptoms. It's found by mastering the flow. Today, we stop chasing the pain and start addressing the cause. We are going to reset the first domino so that every step you take from here on out reinforces your strength instead of draining it. It is time to stop theorizing and start the reclamation. To begin rebuilding your foundation, we must first address the silent atrophy occurring inside your socks. For most of us, our toes have become a singular, fused block of tissue, a blunt instrument rather than the sophisticated fan of stability they were designed to be. If you want to stabilize your hips and save your back, you have to start by rediscovering the space between your bones. We call this move 1 the great spread. Imagine your foot as a hand that has been forced into a permanent fist for 20 years. To wake it up, you must first teach it how to open. As you stand or sit with your bare feet flat on the floor, try to lift all 10 toes off the ground simultaneously. For many, this simple command from the brain feels like a signal sent into a void. The toes might twitch, or perhaps they won't move at all. This is the sleep we talked about, the neurological disconnection caused by the shoe coffin. But as you persist, you'll feel a faint flicker of engagement. Once those toes are hovering, the real work begins. Try to spread them as wide as possible, driving the big toe toward the midline of your body and the pinky toe toward the outer edge. You are looking for light between the toes. You are looking for the fan. This simple act of splaying creates a massive, immediate structural shift. As the toes widen, the dormant muscles of your midfoot, the true living arch supports, suddenly click into the on position. You aren't just moving skin and bone. You are retensioning the bowstring of your foot. Feel the sensation that travels up your shins as those arches lift. This is the internal bracing system of the human body finally coming back online. You are no longer standing on a collapsed heap of meat and bone. You are standing on a dynamic, pressurized tripod. This isn't just a stretch. It is a neurological handshake. You are telling your brain, I am here, I am wide, and I am stable. By mastering the great spread, you aren't just fixing your feet. You are sending a message of safety all the way up the kinetic chain, telling your knees and hips that they no longer have to carry the burden of a failing foundation. Once your feet have begun to wake up and splay wide against the earth, you've secured the base of the tower. But a skyscraper that cannot sway in the wind will eventually snap. In the human body, that vital capacity for sway, the ability to absorb force and change direction without breaking, lives almost entirely within the ankle. Yet, for most of us, the ankle has become a rusted hinge, restricted to a tiny, repetitive range of motion by flat pavement and stiff shoes. It is the most neglected joint in the body, and today we are going to give it back its 360-degree freedom. Enter move 2, the ankle compass. Imagine your heel is the center of a clock face resting on the floor, and your toes are the needle. Most people only ever move their needle between 12 and 6 o'clock, up and down, step after step. But life doesn't just happen in a straight line. It happens in the corners, the pivots, and the sudden shifts. To restore your vitality, you must reclaim the edges of the map. As you lift one foot slightly off the ground, begin to draw the largest, slowest circle you can possibly manage with your toes. As you move through this circle, you will likely hit dead zones. Areas where the movement feels jerky, clicking, or entirely absent. These are the blind spots in your nervous system. These are the places where your brain has forgotten how to control the joint. By slowing down and drawing through these sticky patches, you are effectively scraping the rust off the gears. You are teaching the ligaments and tendons of the lower leg how to talk to each other again. Feel the tension move from the front of the shin to the outer calf, then deep into the Achilles and finally across the inner arch. This isn't just a warm-up, it is a recalibration. When your ankle can move freely in every direction, it acts as a high-performance shock absorber for everything above it. A mobile ankle is the ultimate insurance policy for your knees. When the ankle can't bend, the knee is forced to twist. When the ankle is fluid, the knee is protected. By the time you finish your compass rotations on both sides, your lower legs will feel lighter, warmer, and strangely more electrified. You have just reopened a massive channel of communication between the ground and your brain. You aren't just a block of wood anymore. You are a dynamic system ready to navigate the world with precision and grace. If the human body is a grand architectural marvel, the knee is perhaps its most misunderstood feature. We treat it like a primary protagonist in the story of our pain. We ice it, we brace it, and we curse it when it creaks. But the truth is far more humbling. The knee is not a leader. It is a middleman. It is a simple hinge caught in a high-stakes negotiation between two powerful, temperamental neighbors, the mobile ankle below and the powerhouse hip above. When these two neighbors stop talking, the knee is the one that pays the price. Imagine a suspension bridge where the anchors on either shore begin to rot. The cables in the center don't snap because they are weak. They snap because the foundation has shifted. Your knee is designed to do exactly two things well: fold and unfold. It is a gate that swings on a single axis. However, when your feet are asleep and your ankles are locked like rusted hinges, the ground's jagged forces have nowhere to go. Instead of being absorbed by the 33 joints of the foot or dissipated by the 360-degree rotation of the ankle, that energy travels straight up the shin bone and slams into the knee. But the pressure doesn't just come from below. If the hips, the massive, multidimensional engines of your lower body, are tight or immobile, they lose their ability to steer the leg. The knee, desperate to keep you moving forward, is forced to do the hip's job. It begins to twist, to wobble, and to cave inward just to find a path of least resistance. It is being asked to rotate when it was only built to hinge. This is the bridge to the hips, a structural pathway where the knee acts as a sacrificial lamb for the dysfunction of its neighbors. To find true vitality, you have to stop obsessing over the middleman. You can rub all the liniment you want into a sore knee, but if the ankle remains a block of wood and the hip remains a locked vault, the pain will always return. The knee is a mirror. It reflects the health of the joints around it. When we stabilize the foot and unlock the hip, the knee finally gets to do what it was designed for. Nothing but support. It becomes silent again. By shifting our focus away from the symptom and toward the structural conversation between the ground and the pelvis, We give the knee the one thing it craves most, the freedom to just be a hinge. Having secured the ground and freed the ankles, we now travel upward to the throne of your movement, the pelvis. If the feet are your roots, the hips are the engine, the hinge of life that determines whether your spine stands tall or collapses under its own weight. For most of us, this engine has been left in park for far too long, seized up by hours of sitting until the muscles and fascia around it have forgotten how to glide. To restart the engine, we must first find the center. This is move 3, the pelvic clock. Imagine, for a moment, that your pelvis is a heavy ceramic bowl filled to the very brim with water. As you stand with your newly awakened feet, visualize that bowl sitting atop your legs. If you arch your back and stick your tailbone out, the water spills over the front rim, drenching your toes. If you tuck your tailbone under and slump your shoulders, the water sloshes over the back, soaking your heels. Most of us spend our entire lives leaking in one direction or the other, forcing our lower backs or our hip flexors to hold a weight they were never meant to carry. The pelvic clock is the art of finding the level. As you gently tilt that imaginary bowl forward toward 6 o'clock and backward toward 12, you are searching for the neutral, that sweet, silent spot where the water stays perfectly still. It is a subtle, almost invisible movement, but the internal shift is seismic. When you find your neutral, you aren't just standing. You are plugging your spine into its primary power source. You'll feel a strange sense of lightness in your belly and a sudden release in your hamstrings. But don't stop at the vertical. Move the bowl toward 3 o'clock and 9 o'clock, dipping your hips side to side. You are exploring the full diameter of your potential. By smoothing out the glitches in this circular motion, you are effectively unlocking the vault of your vitality. You are telling your nervous system that it is safe to let go of the rigid, defensive bracing that characterizes modern life. As the hinge of life begins to swing freely again, you'll notice that your breath goes deeper and your stride feels longer. You have found the center of your universe. Now that we've leveled the bowl, it's time to test its range. We've found the center. Next, we must learn how to flow through the extremes. Now that you've found the level center of your pelvic bowl, it is time to move beyond the stillness of neutral and into the dynamic power of the flow. In the modern world, we treat our hips like static pillars meant only for sitting or standing, but their true nature is rotational. Your hip is a ball and socket joint, a masterpiece of engineering designed to spiral, pivot, and glide through a massive range of motion. When we lose this rotational grease, our bodies become brittle. To reclaim that fluid vitality, we must master move 4, the 90-90 flow. This is where we move past the old-fashioned passive stretching of the past. We aren't just pulling on muscles like rubber bands. We are teaching the nervous system how to control the hinge of life at its very limits. As you lower yourself to the floor, imagine your legs forming 2 right angles, one shin parallel to the front of your mat, the other trailing behind at a 90-degree angle. In this position, one hip is rotated outward toward the world, while the other is rotated inward toward your center. You are effectively wringing out the tension from the deepest corners of your pelvis. As you sit tall, you might feel a sharp, sticky resistance, a reminder of all those hours spent folded into office chairs. This is where the flow begins. Without using your hands for support, imagine your knees are heavy magnets being pulled toward the opposite side. You slowly sweep them through the air, staying grounded through your sit bones, until you land in the mirror image of your starting position. This transition is the flow, a slow-motion dance that forces your internal and external rotators to communicate for the first time in years. Feel the heat begin to build deep within the hip capsule. This isn't a superficial burn. It is the feeling of blood, oxygen, and awareness flooding back into a space that has been dark for a decade. By moving through the 90-90 flow, you are clearing the blockages in your kinetic chain. You are telling your brain that it no longer needs to guard your lower back with tension because your hips are finally capable of doing their job. When you stand up from this flow, you won't just feel stretched. You will feel integrated. Your legs will feel like they are truly plugged into your torso, rather than just hanging from it. We have awakened the feet, freed the ankles, and greased the gears of the hips. Now, there is only one thing left to do. We must weave these three separate parts into a single, unbreakable unit of power. We have spent the last several chapters waking up the ghosts in your machine, recovering the lost language of your toes, the 360-degree map of your ankles, and the deep, rotational grease of your hips. But a collection of high-performance parts is useless if they don't know how to work together. This is where we meet the final boss of Day 3, the tripod stance. This isn't just an exercise. It is the moment of integration, the point where the separate dominoes we've been resetting finally lock into a single, unbreakable pillar of power. Stand tall and bring your attention back to the ground. In the great spread, we open the foot. Now we are going to weaponize it. Imagine your foot has three primary points of contact: the ball of your big toe, the ball of your pinky toe, and the center of your heel. This is your tripod. As you stand, I want you to screw your feet into the floor, not by physically moving your toes, but by creating an invisible external rotation through your shins and into your thighs. As you grip the earth with those 3 points, something remarkable happens. You'll feel the arches of your feet lift, not because of an artificial insert, but because your intrinsic muscles are finally doing their job. That tension travels up through your ankles, which are now stable and alert, and hits your hips. If you found your level bowl from the pelvic clock, you will feel your glutes ignite. This is the zip. It's a line of electric stability that starts at the big toe and travels all the way to the base of your skull. In this moment, you are no longer a series of problem areas. You are a singular, structural unit. You are the skyscraper with its deep foundations, its flexible hinges, and its powerful core. This stance is the blueprint for how you should move through the world, not as a passenger in a body that aches, but as the commander of a machine that is perfectly aligned. You are solid, you are grounded, and for the first time in a long time, you are fully on. This is the feeling of vitality. It isn't a frantic, fleeting burst of energy. It is the quiet, calm confidence of a body that knows it cannot be knocked over. Take a breath and just exist for a moment. Don't try to do anything. Simply inhabit the space you are currently occupying. After only 10 minutes of intentional reconnection, the silence in your body has changed its frequency. This is the somatic check-in, the quiet observation of the transformation that has occurred between your skin and the floor. How do you stand differently now than you did when we first spoke of skyscrapers and sand? Close your eyes. Notice the weight distribution across your soles. 10 minutes ago, you likely felt heavy in your heels, your center of gravity pulled backward as if you were perpetually bracing against a fall. Perhaps your toes were curled in a defensive grip or completely numb to the textures beneath them. But now, if you followed the blueprint, your feet feel wider, as if they've literally expanded to claim more territory. There is a ping of awareness in your big toe that wasn't there before. A live wire of communication that tells your brain exactly where the horizon is. Scan upward. Your ankles, once described as rusted hinges, now feel like fluid dampeners. There is a subtle, elastic tension in your calves that feels ready, rather than tight. And your hips, that hinge of life, no longer feel like a locked vault. Instead, they feel like a steady, level pedestal upon which your spine can finally rest. You might notice that your shoulders have dropped away from your ears without you even asking them to. Why? Because when the foundation is secure, the rest of the structure doesn't have to climb itself to stay upright. The frantic, muscular effort of simply being has been replaced by the effortless physics of alignment. This is the true meaning of grounding. It isn't a mystical concept. It is a physiological reality. It is the feeling of being plugged in. You are no longer hovering on top of the earth. You are integrated with it. You might feel a strange sense of calm washing over your nervous system. This is because your brain, finally receiving clear, stable signals from your feet, has turned off the alarm of instability. You aren't just standing taller. You are standing with more authority. This is the quiet baseline of vitality, the steady, unshakable confidence of a body that knows exactly where it stands. The transition from this room back into the real world is where most people lose the progress they've just made. They step back into their shoe coffins, hitch their bags over one shoulder, and immediately surrender the ground they've just reclaimed. But you are following a blueprint, not a fleeting trend, and that requires a bridge between this moment and the next. To ensure the stability isn't just a 10-minute guest in your body, I am giving you a 24-hour challenge. The practice of intermittent grounding. The challenge is simple but transformative. Between now and day 4, I want you to identify 3 specific anchor moments in your day. Moments that are usually spent in mindless transit or static waiting. Perhaps it's the 2 minutes you spend brushing your teeth, the time it takes for your morning coffee to brew, or the 60 seconds you spend standing in an elevator or on a train platform. In these moments, instead of checking your phone or drifting away, I want you to perform a system reset. First, find your tripod. Feel the big toe, the pinky toe, and the heel grip the earth. Second, check your pelvic bowl. Are you leaking water over the front? Level it out. Third, find the zip, that line of energy traveling from the floor to your crown. You don't need to do a full workout. You just need to remind your nervous system that you are still the commander of your foundation. If you find yourself in shoes for most of the day, your challenge includes the nightly jailbreak. The moment those shoes come off, spend just 60 seconds performing the great spread. Wiggle those toes, reclaim the space between them, and tell your feet that they are finally home. By doing this, you are telling your brain that vitality isn't a scheduled event. It is your default state of being. You have successfully poured the concrete for your skyscraper. You've stabilized the base, greased the hinges, and aligned the core. Tomorrow, we stop focusing on how to stand still and start learning how to move with explosive intent. We have built the foundation. Now we begin to build the engine. Sleep well, stay grounded, and I will see you for day 4, where we take this stability and turn it into raw, unshakable power.